things like Confucius and some of those Eastern philosophers and stuff like that. There's so much that is unpacked now. And then so much of the history we have is because something fantastic enough that people... All right, welcome to another episode of the Joe and Doug Show. We're glad you've joined us here this evening. We're excited to jump in and talk about some topics, some stuff to help you become the best version of yourself. Joe, you've had a lot of introspection going on, a lot of cool stuff happening. I know I've been doing some introspection and preparing for things to come. How's stuff going? You feel good? You ready?
Yeah, I'm absolutely ready.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
I've been winging everything though. Like you're the planner and you're like bullet points. I've been doing nothing but let it free flow. So this should be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm very concrete, sequential, and I like to have my strategy and my plan in place. And I need that. I don't know. There's comfort in that. You don't find comfort in that?
You start with A, I'll start with B.
Can't do it, sir. Can't do it. But as we're coming into the holiday season, and I know for a lot of folks, they're looking forward to family time. They're looking forward to getting to give gifts, special meals, special types of food. Do you guys do anything special food-wise, Christmas time and stuff like that? Do you guys eat anything special?
Not anymore. No, we've been bailing out around Christmas to go other places. Mm-hmm. And so we've been really good about like really not doing anything traditional.
Okay.
So, I've just been doing our normal stuff. So
okay, we do like a Christmas casserole that my wife's preparing. It's a breakfast casserole. It's like eggs and bacon and sausage and that sort of stuff. And then my mom growing up always made stromboli. And you just kind of pounded stromboli for a couple days over Christmas break. It made it easier for her because she could bake a whole bunch one afternoon, and then as boys we could just take the pizza cutter out and cut a piece, throw it in the microwave, and eat it, and she didn't have to worry about it. So but so I think the direction we should go for today's show, first of all, we're gonna have to do another conspiracy theory show because there was an article like in the Jerusalem Post, a legit retired Israeli general with all the credentials and credibility basically came out and said aliens are real. We've been talking to him for a while, and here's what we did. And it was like, he was not like ha 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 at the end of it. Like it was very I don't know, he's kind of like on his way out of certain things, and so he's just like deuces, and here's all the info that you need. And so it was the Jerusalem Post pretty respected.
But if you haven't noticed, there are conspiracy theories in every corner of every room in our culture right now. So now's a perfect time just to be like, surprise!
Throw it out there. Yeah, it's true. You got all the COVID stuff that's conspiracy this and conspiracy that, all the political stuff. And so we'll have to do, maybe we should do keep people up to date with their conspiracy theories and
or we could just do a straight show, and that would be different than everybody else is doing. I want to tell you, like, sermon last Sunday, nailed it out of the park, man. I got to give you props.
Appreciate that.
Props on that.
Yeah, it was fun talking about purpose for people, and I'm actually going to kind of wheel. That was a good segue.
It's like we planned this.
We don't. But as people are, we talked about vision boarding a little bit, and we talked about taking into account and evaluating the year end. When we start looking at our purpose and our value, and the reason a lot of folks feel aimless and feel out of place in their world, I find that it's you said this last show, going back to the 2-yard runs. Like, you can't start and think like, all right, Hail Mary, it's got to be, what are we going to do over the next couple yards to figure this out and move the ball forward. And for so many folks, because they want the results now, instantly, they're always looking for those big plays. I know this week, it was funny, we talked about my vision board a little bit and some of the health stuff, and I just started. It wasn't a good start. It wasn't like, I don't know, I'm always like, I have to start on Monday, and then I'll go to the gym, and then I'll, and you build up this anticipation for the one day. And I was just like, screw it, I'm going to start. And I started by drinking 30 ounces of lemon water. That was my thing. And then you put a thing out on Facebook about no extra sugars, like fruits, vegetables, fine, but no like Twinkies and candy and that sort of stuff.
Should be easy enough, right?
Right. And so my wife was like, oh, I'm in. And I commented on her. I was like, no, we're in. Like, if you're going to do it, I'll do it. And for 7 days, and you go in on that sort of stuff. You know, so I've been doing that. And then I started walking, started doing some of that stuff, got back on the scale. And Sam was like, well, what are you going to do come Christmas? I'm like, I'm going to do what healthy people do during Christmas. I don't know what that looks like yet. I was like, but we're going to have to make some different choices. And it shouldn't matter whether it's Christmas or New Year's or my birthday or whatever in the calendar, but so many folks wait for the opportune circumstances. So it actually maybe goes back to your I need part A and a strategy, and I'm going to start on this spot, and oftentimes end up, you know, quitting around C or D, and you're like, I don't care where I start, I'll figure it out, and we'll get to the other end. I think there's some validity in that, because so many wait for the perfect parameters to start anything. And really, the only perfect thing to do is start. You're never going to have all the right conditions. I can't tell you how many couples I counsel that they're like, well, I don't know if we want to get married. We don't have quite enough money. We don't have this set up. We don't have that set up. I'm like, you're never going to have enough money. You're never going to have the right conditions for that. You'll be waiting a decade before you get married. Well, you know, we don't know if we want to start having kids. And all. I'm like, you're never going to have all the right parameters and everything you want to have kids. Some of those things, like, you do it and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
And
well, and you nailed it with your example where, you know, what we're going to do is what healthy people do. Yep. That is the only like model that you need to try to keep up with. So many people will go through the process, but they'll take something that trips them up and make a villain out of it, and they'll feel terrible about it. And they'll make an experience that should be the pursuit of something that's awesome, and they'll beat themselves up every 10 minutes. So they're not going to stay in that long if all they ever do is torture themselves.
Yeah. And it's true, because we build up that image, and that's what I think it's all where it really hurts people is as you're starting something, you have this perfect picture of what it should be, and if it doesn't quite look like that, then you're like, screw it, I didn't do it right, and you end up quitting instead of just like, hey, I'm going to start this and we're going to do our darndest to take a good swing at this, and you know, if it doesn't work today, maybe it'll work tomorrow, and just to keep plugging away and not beat yourself up if it's not perfect. And I think we paint that starting line, we paint that race, whatever analogy you want, in such a way that makes it almost impossible to achieve, because it's never going to look that way. And then you get there and you're like, well, it didn't look this way, so I'm not going to do it.
You ever run with a runner?
Yes, actually, I trained for a 5K once in 2011, and Keith was our church attorney, and he was also, I don't know, he's run probably 50 or 60 marathons, and he showed up in the middle of February in like next to nothing runner clothes, and it's like, you know, -10 out, and he's like, let's go, and he's all chipper at, you know, 6 a.m, and he ran from his house to my house, which was already like 10 miles, and then I'm just trying to make it a mile or a mile and a half, and you know, he's jogging backwards, he hasn't sweat, you know, and his heart rate's like 50 as we're jogging, and all of that, but and he's got one of those like super sweet watches that, like, you know, controls the spin of the earth and all that sort of stuff. But he was so helpful on a couple of things, because I had to get out of bed and meet him for running because he was standing on my front porch, and you know, he was coaching me through the breathing and the different things that, you know, I was just like going out there without necessarily thinking through some of the mechanics of it, and to learn, like, oh, in your nose, out your mouth, and how to control your heart rate and how to control some of these things, instead of just going out there and being like, I'm gonna die. He helped me with the other side of that. So anyway, you have an analogy with running with someone who runs.
It really does make a different version of you.
Yeah.
First off, you know that the runner that's running with you is not running their normal game. Right?
Yes.
They're slowing down for you, and they're running a totally different game. So you halfway feel a little bit bad that you're making that guy not run his game.
Yeah.
So that's first off. You already feel like a total, you know, whatever. And then the second part is that you push yourself like beyond some limits, because you're making that compromise. Since he's running slower than he normally does, I got to run a little faster than I normally do. Right. And so what I did, and this was the guy that runs 10 miles a day through the woods. And these aren't like run on a level street. These are like a run up the side of a mountain, then down the other side of a mountain. Right. So it's not real running. It's like torture running.
Sure.
But so anyway, so I'm running, we get up first thing, 6:30 in the morning, and we're running through the woods, and it's awesome because the view is amazing, and air's different, and
Yep.
and we're trying to talk, and like we get into like 9 sentences, and I'm like, can we stop talking? How am I gonna work on breathing? But so I ran it, and he ran half of his normal thing because he just knew that it was gonna kill me if we went the other way around. So then the next day, without him, I ran it, and guess what? Guess what happened? Like, it was not my best showing. Like, because he wasn't there driving me, it was slower. I wanted to give up sooner. I didn't make it all the way to the other distance. I felt it was 900 times harder when I did it without him being there.
Yeah, the who is such a big deal when you surround yourself with the right people to elevate your game. Like, Jed and I are going to go to the gym tomorrow. We haven't been to the gym together in months. Partly because the missus is pregnant. He's gonna be a dad here in a couple of weeks, and he hasn't necessarily kept on that. And then for me, COVID, the gym closed. I mean, you make whatever excuses you want, but we just hadn't. And I was talking with him this morning, and he was like, well, let's go to the gym. And he's like, you want to start Monday or whatever? We're talking. He's like, I was supposed to start this Monday. I was like, let's just start tomorrow. Like, we were like, let's do it. And so we, we're gonna meet tomorrow and see what comes of it. I'll be very sore on Thursday for our show, I'm sure, but it'll be a good sore in that respect.
But that getting started part,
exactly,
the toughest.
Yeah,
it really.
But
is.
It helps when you have other people. It's the only thing when you look at the creation story in Scripture. It's the only thing in creation that God says is not good. Everything is. He saw this and it was very good. He saw that and it was very good. And the only thing he stops and says isn't good. He's like, it's not good for man to be alone. Like, he needs somebody to lean on. Well, would you like how I tied that in?
I did. Yeah.
Sign me up for the worship
team.
You
got pipes, man.
Yeah, right. But no, we truly, it's why marriage is such a huge benefit. Like, I'm so much better because of my wife. When I look at the team at church, I'm so much better because this person's good at that and that person's good at that. And I don't have to be the best at everything. We had, a couple ladies there decorating for Christmas today. Thank God, because I look at that and I'm like, I carried the, Jed brought all the stuff down, and then I put the trees up on the platform and wherever they need to go. That's the extent of my decorating ability. But these ladies are in here mix matching colors, and this goes better with this and this ribbon. And I'm like, thank God somebody knows how to do that. And genuinely, when you're in a team in that sense, it's great to have experts that can lift the level of your game. I'm sure you've experienced that in business. I'm sure you've experienced that on multiple fronts. What do you do if you do suck at something and you need somebody to come alongside? Because sometimes you don't want to feel like you're begging somebody to like help you out. Like, hey, I'm terrible at this, help me out. And in the same breath, you don't want to let somebody down when you ask for their help too. So where's the tension in that, and how do you navigate that? I
overshare with what my reason is, and especially with the guy that wants to run his normal routine. I have to tell him I'm about to ruin your morning routine. If you come with me, you're gonna run slower and whatever. So he has to, most people, especially in business, can't wait to dumb things down a little bit for the new guy. Like they wish somebody would have done that for them. They're super, as long as you share that with them. If you play big badass, right? And then you just embarrass yourself and you make people mad because you misrepresented what your intentions were.
Yeah, that authenticity is super important to come out the gate. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do, and have the self-awareness of those things. So some people, it's not that they don't want the help; they're just not self-aware that they even need it. I've met a ton of young leaders that are just passionate, excited, idealistic, maybe even, and they come out of the gate and they feel like they have to present themselves perfect. And it's like, if you just presented yourself authentic, you would do so much better.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, overconfident is just as annoying as underconfident.
Yeah.
So I just need like a little honesty to find out where that needle is, and then I can help you either way.
Well, and it's funny because people that are overconfident or underconfident, they think they're fooling everybody in the room, and the only person they're fooling is themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because most people in the room are like, "Get out of here!" Like we know that that's not the case, or come on, like, you're better than that. Like we've all seen this product or whatever you've done, navigating that self-awareness and to be authentic with yourself, to get the help you need, to take the steps you need. So like, I had went for a walk yesterday with Robbie from church, and I just said, hey, this is where I'm at. I got this going on, this going on, this going on. I have a singular health goal for next year, and I said, I know I'm going to need to walk, so if we could walk, that'd be great. And so we walked yesterday, we walked today, and then I had coffee with Jed earlier this morning. I said, listen, I have a singular health goal. And he's like, let's do it. Let's go. And I think it is important because I'm not going to cross that finish line myself. That group of people are going to be cheering. They're going to be holding my arm up. They're going to be pushing me across. They're going to be sending me that text at 10 o'clock at night when I'm like, oh, I could go for, whatever food wise or whatever, and getting you through those moments. It's why so many of those diet plans, recovery, all that stuff is revolved around people, because people are the thing that help push you across that finish line. There's no Lone Rangers. They just don't exist. Yeah.
I mean, you and I have kind of developed, the right kind of people around us that say the right kind of things and are supportive, because it is reciprocal. So, yeah. But you at home, if you're just getting started, you might have a lot of the wrong people around you. And the real way of auditing this to find out if you need to and you don't necessarily need to kick people out of your life, but you do need to have talks about hey, you know what? I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be weak. I'm going to be entering into some stuff, and I don't need to hear some realism coming out of your noise hole, right? So what you need to audit is, if you stop being able to figure out who the giver is and who the taker is, if everybody's just giving, right? Yep. Then you're in the right cloud. If you feel like you're always being taken and it's always going a one-way street, you need to have that conversation sooner rather than later, because you're going to get sapped of all of that momentum that you have.
And you very well may need to kick people out of your life.
You could.
There's certainly space for that. Don't think for a moment that there are some people that are just toxic that don't need to be in your life.
And they're parasites. They're just looking to take what you got.
Yeah. And they may be in your life to take what you have. And so that's why I say that you may need to kick them out. Not you have to kick them out.
But I would have conversation first.
Yes.
And you will know that when you start bringing that up, if they're going to flee, that's the time that they're going to get out of your way.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, if you have an honest conversation like that, they're going to be like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you mentioned, people are starting out, and to find people that are going to champion your goals. I was able to text you some pictures of, my vision board, and sent those to a couple other people as well. And, the response back was like, get it, Dougie, you the man, you got this, or whatever, let's go. Kind of across the board is super encouraging. But a lot of people don't have that. They're like, who can I share this with? Even if I shared it with my spouse, they'd probably be like, yeah, another attempt at this, like I've had those people in my life plenty over the years, like, oh, trying to lose weight again, buddy, good luck. I don't need that. That's already going on between my ears. I need the people in my world that are going to be like, hey, this is the time, you got this. And are going to not just, encourage in that, but they're next time they see me, hey, how's it going? What's, can I help with anything? Like, you've asked me 3 times since I mentioned I'm doing this. What can I do? How can I be a part? How can I help? People who don't have that support, where do they find that support? How do they go get that? And we've talked about this a little bit before, but it's a good refresher.
Right. And if you don't, you probably, or because you sort of condition your environments, you probably have the wrong people around you, no matter what it is that you do. And so having those conversations, you got to figure out what you need from other people. If you're going to reciprocate, you got to know where your weakness, and usually the person is strong in the ways that you're weak, and vice versa, right? So you're looking for people who you can serve, and a lot of times you'll stumble on those people who can serve you by making them complete in that way. So I just turn into this super giver when it comes down to it, and I'm looking for people that I can fill a void somehow. If I go out looking for someone who could serve me, wrong discussion. You're not going to find that, I swear to you.
It's good. I had a professor in college that made us take out a piece of paper one day, and he said, what type of church do you want to have? What are the people like? Describe the atmosphere, and, are people generous? Are they, like all those sort of things. And I forget which class it was, but, everybody had to come up with a list of at least 10 things they were hoping their church would be like culture-wise and reflect. And, you had things on there like, we want people full of faith. We want people that, are generous, and people that are going to meet needs, and servants, and all that stuff. And so you write, and we had these big discussions on, well, why is that on your list, and why isn't this on your list, and all that. And then he gets to the end of it, and he sets you up, and he said, if you want those type of people in your church, go become every single thing on that list.
Boom.
And it was like, ooh, like I think I'm a couple of those things, you know, and then you start doing the inventory of what am I not and how do I navigate those things. But his point was, you will never attract a generous person unless you're generous. You will never attract a person who has faith unless you have faith. And so finding those gifts, I think, a little bit within yourself first, and then realize I'm going to pull those people into my life because that's who I am. And that's, you know, people use the word energy, vibe, whatever. That's who I am. And so that's who I pull around me. And it's interesting because when people, I talk about being, an optimist quite a bit. And when people are not that way, they struggle to be on my teams and they struggle to be around me. Like, not because they can't, but there's always like a little bit of a friction. Like, that's fine. You want to point out the problem, but I'm telling you, we have a solution and it's coming. Well, yeah, but that's not good. Like, and I get it. And I watch the grind and the wheels and I'm like, that's fine. I understand what you're saying is true. I'm just not offering it a position at the table to help me make the decision. Like, I understand there's a problem. I understand there's a hurdle. That doesn't have any influence over where we're going. That's right. Because the answer is going to come regardless of the problem. And that's very challenging in certain contexts and in team contexts because you'll pull in all different types of people. But the people that ultimately stay with you and are around you, and even within your family, are those people that like attracts like. It just
you reciprocate. That is the word for tonight. Whatever it is that you want, you have to first reciprocate it before you receive it. It's almost like if you want heat, right? You need to have the logs, right? Yeah. You don't get the heat before the logs. It's your responsibility to create the thing, to get the heat. It doesn't work the other way around. Everybody wants the payoff first, and then they'll be willing to do the thing to get the payoff. Not how it works.
Yeah, the Bible says you reap what you sow. God won't be mocked. It's the way he's designed it. If you want that, sow the seed in the ground, and eventually you'll reap the harvest. If you want that, I heard a preacher say one time, people kind of do this backwards when it comes to their health. He was like, if you want energy, you don't sow sleep, you sow exercise, you sow energy, and then you reap energy in return. And it's the same concept.
Yeah, 1,000 examples. You run across, somebody who's hard up on their luck, right? And you say, hey, I got to change things up. I got to recalibrate. So what do you do? All right, go start giving. You're like, well, no, you don't understand. I need to have some. Like, nothing's coming my way. You're like, no, you got to start giving and giving and giving. And that's what will come back to you. And it's a really counterintuitive lesson.
No, you are 100% correct. And it's difficult because you get people who, whether they're down on their luck or they're in a spot where they feel like they can't do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no. You have to do X, Y, and Z if you want to get there. Like, right now, I'm going to hurt tomorrow. Like, I'm keenly aware that I'm going for not even a full, it's just going to be 45 to 50 minutes. I know 15 of those is going to be spent on an elliptical, and I'm going to be okay.
You're going to have a sad face. I know it.
But I'm going to come through it. And no, it is not going to necessarily be a great, joyous experience. I'm going to enjoy being in the atmosphere. I'm going to enjoy being with Jed, but getting into, if I don't sow that, I can't reap that.
Yep.
And so 3 weeks from now, I'm going to get to reap some of the fruit of, I've been to the gym 4 times this week. I've been to I've walked 5 times this week. I didn't eat like a bucket of poo this week. So I'm going to get to reap those rewards.
Well stated, man.
I'm on it right now.
Bucket of poo. Bucket of poo.
Yeah. Well, I have kids, so we do potty, poo, that sort of stuff. But for so many people, they can't imagine giving the one thing they don't have and that they want. Finance is such a great example. When people are like, well, I don't have money for this. I'm like, well, you need to find something to give to it. But
what?
I can't. I'm like, I don't care if you have $5. Like, go find somebody or go find something and pour it out, and you watch it. It always comes back. It's the craziest. And it's not even, some people are like, oh, that's just what preachers say to get money. No, like, it's a principle that God's built into the earth. Like, it's a universal principle. I don't care if you go to church or don't go to church. Like, you give, and then this crazy thing happens. It may not come back. You may not get a check in the mail. You may, but it may come back over here and somebody else buys you lunch, or like there's all these different ways that those, you have those shirts, right?
Yeah.
What do they say? Give to get, or get, do you have it on underneath? Shut up. Shut up. Did not plan this at all. That's awesome. I was sitting there going, he has a shirt, right? That is awesome.
But my wife and I have tested this phenomenon in every angle possible. And we are at 100% positive rate. So this isn't something that I speculate. This is something that has been proven out a million different ways. I can attest to every single way. When things were tight, we gave. When things were not tight, we gave. And every single time, it comes back. And it comes to the point, comes back so fiercely that the boomerangs are coming back. Yeah. You have to figure out bigger and better ways to keep throwing it.
Well, give us a Joe and Debbie story where you gave, whether it was in a hard time, a good time, and what the boomerang back was.
Well, let me give you the language, because this sort of like, we go through these things where she always takes it the same way, and I always take it the same way, right? She'll say something like, hey, this project's going on, I need $800 more, right? I'm like, okay, give it, right? And she was like, well, do we have... Give it, right? And it's always the same response, where she wants to have a reason, like, well, what if we don't give it, right? It doesn't matter. It's an unlimited spigot of resources when you're just way open. Like, God will send you the opportunity, and then if you respond, he'll supply the resources. You don't have to get involved.
That's so good. We're gonna have you preach on a Sunday.
Yeah, no way, man. Could we do numerology? Because I need.
Yeah, I know you wanted to touch on this a little bit. Does it fit with the reciprocating?
No, it doesn't.
No, not at all. We're just split the show in half. That's fine.
He does segues that make sense. I do these 90 degrees, bare knuckles.
I had a plan for this show. I think a little bit like coming in my head. So numerology. So it's big, right? I mean, people really do, even from the beginning of time, kind of looking at, lucky numbers, unlucky numbers, and whatever. I do not take numerology as like a controlling force, okay? Like go play the lottery with these numbers,
no. Okay, so when you study like the universe, right? You have black holes. Yep. You can't see a black hole. Right? The only thing that you can see is what you can't see. Like, you have to extrapolate data from what you don't see. I don't believe that these analog eyeballs give you a straight answer on what the world is around you. I think there's a lot more going on, and I think numbers are the real picture that's painted in the universe. And so you're getting an understanding of your surroundings, like when you can see it, it's a wall, it's cool, whatever. Yeah. But look at things that you can't see and try to get a handle on those things. And spirituality evaded me for a long time because I need something concrete. Right. So I had to add things up and have them make sense in a way that was understandable, rather than because I told you so was never, ever, ever good enough for me.
That didn't work for you, did it?
No, not at all. So, I started looking in nature to see repeating patterns. Okay. And a lot of what
Fibonacci sequence, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And so I wanted to get a handle between the parts that were physical and the parts that were not physical. Okay. Right. And then so things like odd numbers, for instance, jumped out at me, and the Fibonacci numbers. Again, this is not like an explanation that I have a handle on it. It's I use numbers to get an understanding for things that I can't see.
Right. You're a data man. I get that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that's simply what I'm doing, is that if I, there are three numbers that jump out at me in science over and over, 369. And my hero, Tesla, said, if you figure out 369, you'll understand the universe, right? And so 369, my license plate 6 and 9, and I'm putting together the whole set. But anyway, so there's three sort of principles that go along with what we're talking about here. Maybe not the same understanding as how we talk about them, but you have energy. Right. And then you have frequency. When I say frequency, what do you think? Like, what is it? Sound? Yeah. Okay. Frequency is repeated motions. Okay. So frequency is do a thing.
Frequency is the bars that go up and down.
So if you can do a thing, but you do it over and over and over again. So like when you're doing your vision boarding, right? You're looking at it every day. You're creating a frequency and putting yourself on a frequency. Yep. So you have a thing that's moving at a certain pace. You're lining yourself up with the pace of that thing. So when you say that I want to be a runner, you look at what a runner does and you look at their frequency, what they do in the morning, what they do in the evening, and you watch them and try to, sort of like pace their frequency. And so, when I first started, frequency to me meant something that, like a sound, like something that was not something I could do. And then when when Einstein started messing around, when I learned about Einstein messing around with the speed of light, and he started talking about things that slow down and speed up, right? Sound evades us because it's happening super fast, faster than we can do things. If you were to slow down your world a little bit, sound would be a completely different thing. Right. So you can create a frequency that happens one time per day, or you can do something that happens one time per second, but it's still a frequency no matter how fast it's happening.
Interesting.
So that's a primer.
Okay. So, so when you talk numerology, right, there's some people that are out on the loopy end with numerology and that sort of stuff. You're saying scientifically this stuff shows up in the universe, it's built into the fabric, and there's stuff that we could really learn about ourselves and the world around us to help us kind of hack the system, if you will. Right.
Yeah, and if you have to have a starting point where you understand like what numbers can be even presented to you in nature. What are you even looking at? Like when you say, it's crazy. If you talk to a numerologist, they do a lot of like numbers that add up to different numbers, and it gets kind of funky fast where you lose me after like the third time that you multiplied it by 7 divided by 6 and you have Hitler's birthday, right? Those kind of a thing. It's not numerology as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But if something presents itself where things that you see in our world happen in threes, like there's a reason why you have Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right?
Sure.
You have things like when I was a kid, I knew that when I had my super company, it was going to be me and 2 other business owners. And I knew nothing about numerology at the time, but I always implanted in my head where something have to happen in threes, like the stool of, security or whatever. But I watched these numbers before I knew anything about this, already see a pattern, and I was already familiar with it in the real world.
So what about 3, 6, and 9? You hear people say, celebrities all die in threes, like the, famous people, like if 2 people die, they're like, I wonder who the third one is. Are you talking about like that kind of stuff, or what example of a 3, 6, or 9 in the universe can people see? So
my interpretation, I don't know if I'm right or not. Okay. So 3, 6, 9, obviously 3 to 6. The first one is going to be energy. That's number 3.
Okay.
Energy is basically you give something to move something else. Like you put yourself into something to move something else. You can create a frequency. That's the number 6.
Okay.
And then the last one is vibration, right? So you go from using your energy to make some kind of movement. You use that movement to do something on a regimen on a regular basis, and you create a vibration that affects other things. So if you dig into those, there's some metaphors that are built into that. If the universe is doing that, where it's using energy to create a frequency to create a vibration then moves over and hits other things. What is it when you use your money to give to somebody else, and then the butterfly effect of creating that vibration on other people? And you could see how like the real world mimics this as it goes outward.
So you're saying when you look, the universe is already doing these sort of things.
Yes.
Energy, frequency, vibration, and all you're saying is you're doing it unintentionally, and if you start doing it intentionally, then you can start getting some different vibrations and outcomes on the
so if you're not getting any movement, why are you not getting any movement? There's no frequency. You're not being consistent and doing the same thing over a period of time. You're not creating a consistent thing where it can vibrate into other things. You're inconsistent. You're creating enough energy to like stir yourself, right? But you're not making any movement happen, and with it affects with the people and the things around you.
Interesting. So for the average person listening, and they're going, energy, vibrate, those are all new terms, right? They're fairly new for me. Energy, if we talk about that, it's really like, what action are you going to take? What effort are you going to put in? And then energy, frequency, your frequency is what's that changing, what's that moving, and what's that shifting, and then the vibration is where is that going out from.
All right, well, let's take your endeavor here.
Yep.
So you're setting a health goal.
Yeah.
All right. You got to know what you need to put into it in order for your health goal to come to life.
Right.
Right. Then you got to repeat that thing over a period of time for a certain period. Right. Yeah. And then you have to reciprocate by pushing whatever you did out to somebody else. So you created the energy to get it started. You created the frequency of doing it long enough to create that deal. And you created a vibration that then affects other things. You could just repeat that cycle with all things.
Again and again. Yeah. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
So like if you set a health goal, but then change it up and do a different thing every day,
Right.
I can guarantee you're not going to create anything that's going to vibrate out and affect other people.
So ultimately what we're talking about is creating the habits that are going to affect the change on the.
That's what a habit is, right?
Yep.
Doing the same, get up, brush your teeth the same way every day.
Yeah.
You practice that in just about everything that you do. So Mr. Make Lists, this is right up your alley. I mean, this is like
totally
the same language that you speak.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I find though, for a lot of folks, what you're talking about here, they'll be stirred to do it. I love that term. You know, I got the energy. You know, they make their New Year's resolution. They'll make a list. They'll buy a membership at the gym. They'll go clear out their cupboard and buy all fruits and vegetables. And this is going to be the year. And they have this energy, but the consistency wanes at some point.
Yep.
So they might create a ripple here. They might lose 10 pounds, whatever. What's the key to that middle one, the number 6, that frequency of it? Because I think most people don't have any problem making energy, but it's directing that energy and then directing it over enough time to actually see an outcome.
So we in business we call it proof of concept, right? Or best practices.
Okay.
So what we do is we got to get in sync with what already exists in nature. A lot of us, what we do is we'll in spite of, you know, like I want to go to work tomorrow, but I'm going to go get wasted tonight. You know, that's not getting in sync because nothing in you says that those things are compatible. So when you're hitting that middle one, you're not looking to take somebody else's definition of what worked and then you go do that. And then you're like, this doesn't feel right, but they did it, right?
Yep,
you got to put yourself in sync with it. And if you're off, right, you're using someone else's definition, that means you were wrong. Right. And you need to get in sync with, you know, I set the goal that I want to do this. Now I'm going to do all the things that feel healthy and feel, you know, mathematically sane. And then, you know, as long as you can do it and you can do it now and forever, you know, it's natural. If you can do it, but you can't see a year from now, you still doing it. That's not a frequency that you can stay in for forever.
So a lot of people are doing that. We were talking about in the beginning, the microwave, right? They just want it quick. So they're going to do, you know, I'll just do a cleanse and I'll drink nothing but lemon juice for, you know, 5 weeks or whatever. And, you know, they lose weight, but then at the end of 5 weeks, like they start eating real food and all the weight comes back on, any diet for that matter. But we want the results quick. So we jump into them, whether that's with finances, anything else. That's why people play the lottery and they do all sorts of stuff because, wow, this is going to be the time I'm going to get rich quick, instead of, well, you know, if I invest this $30 every month in a, you know, 8%, I'll have this much in 25 years, but nobody wants to wait 25 years. Everybody wants it today. How do you fight that? We talk about that often, the immediate gratification, because that's our culture and our world. We don't want to sit around and wait for vibrations. I just want to create the energy and it has to happen.
Okay. So we're at a buffet, right? And these are 2-yard runs. Remember, this is not a home run. This is not a Hail Mary. This is a 2-yard run. So all you have to worry about is making an inch worth of progress. You do not have to hit the goal that is the biggest thing on the side of the barn, right? What you need to do is through attrition, increase it by going, okay, so you know where you were at. Take a picture. This is where I was at. Yeah. Today, I'm just going to be one decision better than I was yesterday. Everything else could be jacked up. I don't care. I'm going to the buffet and I'm saying, which one of these things can I do right now, forever? Now I've got a frequency. Now, if I say, I got to do it all, like who told you have to do it all? Nobody. Nobody's going to hold you to that, you know, that standard. You're at the buffet. All choices are on the table. You just need to make a good one today and know that you can do that one from now until the end of time. That's how you create a frequency, is make it so that you believe yourself that you can actually do that one thing by using the buffet.
I heard a gentleman, sober probably 6 years now, and he said the number one thing he tells all the guys that he sponsors in AA is you just can't drink today. He said you're not promised tomorrow. He's like 24 hours, just make the right decision today. And so many people are like, well, you know, what about 6 weeks from now or a year from now or 5 years from now? And he's like, you just can't do it today. And I find that to be so true with whatever goal we're setting. Like a week from now doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it's going to look like in July when I get on the scale. Just today matters. Like, did I eat this? Did I not eat that? Did I make those choices that I can make, and then wake up tomorrow and can I make those same choices? Like I've been starting my day with 30 ounces of water and a whole lemon squeezed into it. I've done that every day. Now, I feel a little more hydrated. I think I don't feel as like off. I don't feel thirsty or any of those things, and so it's helped some of those things. I don't know if the vitamin C's help, but I'm sure it has. And it's supposed to help speed up your metabolism and curb hunger. And so I started doing that, and I'm like, on the weekend, I'm like, I think I could do this forever. I don't know if it's going to help me get to the weight goal and the health goal, but at some level, water's good for you. Lemon juice is good for you. All right, let's do it. Like those sort of things, to be able to like, all right, I could walk every day from now till I'm 90.
Well, think about it this way, though. If you are setting, okay, so everything around you is moving already. Right. It's a for sure thing. You are moving and everything else is. So picture a couple people over here playing jump rope. And I'm saying you got to watch them a little while and watch them do the rope. And then you're going to jump in and you're just going to do that forever. Right. So it's not a matter of you're going to decide that, hey, this jumping rope is boring. Let me go off sequence from the rope. And then I'm not jumping rope anymore. Once you're lined up and calibrated, there's not a good reason not to do it, because now it's effortless. It was hard to jump in. Right? To be able to watch your brain
find the rhythm.
Well, once you're in the rhythm, there's not a good reason to stop it, because you don't have to think about it from that point. You are at the same frequency as the rope. Getting there is easy and it's effortless.
That's good. And your numerology did tie into the reciprocation.
Sort of. Yeah.
It certainly did. I mean, you're talking about you have to put in certain things if you want certain outputs, and so.
But there's a whole lot of math people who you started using this terminology, and the rest of us, once we started using it, gave it like a concrete form, so that when we talk about frequencies, we have this picture in our head what a frequency is, and it's not until you dial it down and say, all right, well, that word has some kind of origin, right? And what is that real origin? Has if you don't believe in the material fabric of your perception here, it changes a lot. Like if you're being displayed these things, but what if what's happening behind the scenes is not the visual representation that you get?
I heard a guy was giving a talk, and he drew 2 stick figures on the board, and he said these guys live in 2D land, and he goes, now if somebody from 3D land shows up, these guys aren't gonna realize what they're seeing. And he holds a marker and he says, is this marker a square or a circle? And he said, well, it depends. If you're in 2D land and it comes in this way, it's a circle. If it comes in this way, it's a square. Might be both. And he was just talking about perception of reality, in the sense that we only see in the dimensions that we're in, and the dimensions that we can't see or can't, you talked about struggling with the spiritual side of things because it's a dimension you can't necessarily touch and feel and see, although I think you're learning that you can a little bit with certain things. And for so many folks, they just have trouble because, well, I'm a 2D creature, and so that's obviously a circle. Well, it is, but if you'd expand your horizons a little bit, or you look at it from a different angle, you'd realize it's actually a rectangle and a circle. And he did this whole thing on perception, and I find that to be so true. So many people, they see something one way, and that's the way it is, and nobody can convince them otherwise. And it's just like, man, we just need to broaden our horizons here a little bit, and you're going to find out that there's a lot more going on than you're giving credit for.
Yeah, and it's ego. Like the world is not dressed for your entertainment, right? We just we get these really rudimentary, probing devices that are our senses, and we try to make sense of what it is. And you look beyond what you can see. Close your eyes, you get more of of an insight without those things hindering you. Because, like you said, that whole circle coming at you is really confusing when you need that to perform within your physics, right?
Yeah. And it's really convincing when you can see it with your own eyes. And then somebody says, well, actually, no, it's this way. The Bible says we don't live by sight. And there's a ton of stories I could use from Abraham and Lot. They get into this squabble. It's an uncle and a son over, they didn't have enough grass to feed the sheep. And Lot looks up and uses his eyes, and he picks the land that's perfect. It's green, it looks good and everything. And it ultimately leads him to Sodom and Gomorrah. And for those who don't know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, the 2 cities that God decided to destroy because there wasn't anything good left in them. And Lot barely gets out of there by the skin of his teeth. His wife turns around, turns into a pillar of salt. It's a crazy story in Genesis, but Abraham goes the other direction. He says, you go whichever way you want. And Lot uses his eyes and goes one way, and Abraham goes to essentially a desert, and the desert blooms for him and grows and all this sort of stuff. And Lot picked what everybody would say was the best, but Abraham had different eyes, and I could do 17 more stories from scripture and personal stories where, sometimes we pick with the perception that we have, and we tell people, oh, this is wisdom. I understand. I know I've been around the block. We have to choose this way, but faith sometimes causes us to step out into some arenas and some things that, I know that doesn't match up with what you've seen, and I know that doesn't match up with the perception that you have, and I know that doesn't necessarily agree with your general worldview, but faith is the way to go. We live by faith and not by sight.
Way more powerful. And I'm a skeptic, and I'm someone who had to go the hard way, right? To figure this stuff out. And maybe we take a couple sort of more religious bents on here, because I'd really like to dive into this and share experiences, you from the academic side and the practicing side, and me from the skeptics deal. I think that could be a really interesting conversation. You got to bring your A game though.
Yeah.
You got your A?
Oh yeah. Do we ever bring less than our A game, Joe?
I don't think we've ever not. I think sometimes we go into cuckoo land, right? But that's just me. I try to take us there. But one of the biggest hurdles, and still to this day, is Old Testament stuff. Old Testament stuff, and I argue all the time.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the way that this
you have to come to Israel with me.
Okay.
So we will stand in some of those places where the sun stood still, or where David fought Goliath, and some of these things and the archaeological digs that people for millennia said, that story was probably never happened. And then they dig up the city and they find scrolls, or they find, and sure enough, it happened. And to me, those sort of spaces and I'll use your word, the energy and the vibrations in those places will trip you out in a way you've never experienced in your life.
When I probed into Old Testament, Old Testament is very provocative. It is, and I think it is intentionally provocative. The first part of the numerology is energy. To create energy, sometimes chaos, and most of the times chaos is what it takes to get energy going. New Testament is frequency, right?
Okay.
9 to me. Yeah. Total afterlife heaven. Those are the natural progression that all things take, between the energy that creates it, gets it started, the frequency of things repeated and whatever, and then
that's good stuff. We should do a faith versus sight episode.
I'm with it. Yeah, I'm down.
That'd be a lot of fun, and I think it would help a lot of our viewers, because we have a lot of people that and a lot of our listeners that struggle with what they see not matching up with what they really want to believe about the world. Whether that's looking at the current political landscape of our country and going, what I'm seeing is not matching up what I know to be true about our country.
And trusting what you see and perceive. Exactly. And here's a mind-blowing one. There's a lot of chemical things that go in our brain, and our brain's goal is to make things easy for us, right? It doesn't like when things don't line up. So our brain has the ability to change electrical impulses to calm us down. So for instance, if you know that sound travels slower than light, right? So a guy bouncing a basketball away from you, you see him bouncing the basketball, and he's bouncing the basketball, right? So the sound from the basketball is reaching your ear slower than the sight of him actually.
Correct.
So your brain has the ability to sync those up, even though they are not happening at the same time. Your brain has the ability to speed one of them up or slow the other one down so they come in sync.
It's like seeing fireworks.
Yeah. So if you and I can't agree with what we're seeing because our brain has the ability to change it, right? I could say, all right, I'm going to watch him bounce it. You watch him bounce it. And let's see if we say it at the same time. How much of the rest of our world isn't really happening and assembled the way that all of us perceive it?
Yeah. That's
cuckoo land.
No, that's good. It's deep. And, I think we definitely need to do and explore some alien stuff, because we need one of these fun ones where we can just cut back and laugh a bit. And
so can I ask you,
we'll have some people
do you agree with military Israeli who says that we've been doing...
It was a 2-minute article. And
what's your gut say?
He seems to have a ton of credibility.
Okay, so here's usually how I whittle this stuff down. What's his end? What does he gain by saying that?
He's 87 years old. He's on his way out.
What does he have to gain?
Nothing.
He gets it off his chest. Yep. He lets the world know. I mean, it's not like they're going to put him in the nut house. He's on his way out, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have much to gain, and he has nothing really to lose.
Yeah. No, it'll be an interesting conversation. We'll have to dive into, because we did conspiracy theories broadly twice, but we'll have to do one on aliens. I love the idea of us doing a faith versus sight episode, because I think that will really help people navigate their perception of the world. And sometimes those things that we call impossible are just impossible because of the way we're looking at them, not necessarily because they're impossible.
And you know what I'd like to do also? I spent a lot of time thinking about myself as the skeptic, and I'm someone who's I really like religion and the role that it plays in culture. I think it makes people better. I think it gives people the compass. I think we need more of that. And the demand for it doesn't line up with how much I want people to know it. And I am not the type to answer, like, give you the punchline, right? I want you to be inquisitive and find yourself with the demand of that. And then when you're ready to hear those answers, I want to be able to give them to you if you'd like it, but I don't want to like jump the gun and start my megaphone out there and say, it's better over here, come get some, right? It's not in me that way, but it's frustrating to watch, to see someone suffer and know that there's some answers there that could really make life a little bit better, but maybe your suffering needs to lead you to a place where you're inquiring a little bit, that's how you solve that problem.
Yeah, Luke 15, Jesus tells the story of the prodigal son, and leaves, gets his inheritance, squanders it on hookers and all sorts of stuff, and runs out of money and ends up in a pig pen, feeding pigs and starving and eating the pods that the pigs are eating. And the Bible uses this phrase. He said, he came to himself at this moment where he realized, like, what am I doing here? And some people just need a moment like that to really give God a chance, or anything like that, where they just realize, like, why, I'm in this never-ending spot of suffering. There's got to be something else. And then when they start asking those questions,
but you don't want people to have to go to those depths, right? You don't. You want people to discover it just wondering, when it's nice and safe and there's nothing, you're not on the hook for anything. Sure. It's just, find some truth in these corners, and we don't have to have some, pain that goes along with it. I don't know.
No, yeah, we definitely do an episode like that. I like doing an episode like that. It'd be fun to be in my sweet spot. I really wouldn't have to prepare for that one.
I get to set one up on the tee for you.
That'd be good. Well, we are cruising today. We'd sit and talk all night. But thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the conversation on reciprocation and some of the numerology stuff. And just remember, you're going to have to put it out there in order to get it back, whatever that is. You're going to have to put that energy out to receive those vibrations back, and so on. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.